Teresa, Yanaros at Divine Frequency, and you are tuning into On the Airwaves Radio. The times have changed and the tides have shifted. Let's ride the waves. This show is packed with high energy mediatainment live. And for those of you who know me, I have a lot of energy. And no, that's not the coffee, my friends. That's just me all the time. So sorry to burst anyone's bubble there. We are diving deep into the realms of the world. We are exploring the farthest reaches of the unknown. We're leaving no ocean unexplored. And y'all can join me on Thursdays at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time for deeper perspectives on a vast array of news media topics from current events to popular culture. If you want to join the conversation as we're flowing through the ether, y'all, go to Twitter and you can live tweet with Divine Frequency using the hashtag DFairwaves. That's Divine Frequency Airwaves, DFairwaves. My superstar associate, Sterling Nicole Bennett, shout out to you, girl, will be the ringleader of our live tweeting experience this evening. Shout out to Sterling. You can follow her on Twitter at Stario Crossing and me at Divine Frequency. So please go on over and hang out. Feel free to tweet to the hashtag DFairwaves as we go. Today is Thursday, November 8th, 2018. All right, let's dive right in. Hashtag Mermaid Life. We are going to start off with current events, and it's a little bit heavy. It's a little bit heavy today, guys. We're going to start off a little heavy. We're going to get through this, and then we're going to come out on the other end, and we're going to talk about some fun stuff. But there was a shooting, and this is the information is coming from BBC.com and CNN.com. And there was a shooting yesterday in Thousand Oaks, California. This was Wednesday, November 7th, 2018. Ian David Long, aged 28, entered the Borderline Bar and Grill. He opened fire during a college night at the establishment. 12 people were killed, including a police officer. This shooter was a Marine veteran who often visited the site of the shooting. Law enforcement officers had run-ins with the individual before, such as a minor traffic collision, and in 2015, he was actually the victim of a battery in a bar. So the night of November 7th, last night, he was found dead inside the bar when the police entered. And Mayor Andy Fox said that this bar was considered one of the safest cities or Thousand Oaks is considered one of the safest cities in the country. So these things happen, tragedies happen. So I want to say right now, let's take a moment to send prayers and thoughts to everyone affected by this. We feel for you. And these occurrences are tragic indeed. And what needs to happen in the wake of these types of events is a space of healing and community. So I wanted to talk about the deeper implications of any kind of tragedy. And I thought that this would be a good time to discuss this because each of us has to choose to bring light to the darkness. We have to choose to tap into the divine frequency, right? And bring unconditional love to this planet. And none of us are perfect. We're all human, right? But these types of instances really should bring us back to center and make us remember who we are, what we want to be, and how we can show love to others. And I thought that this was a really good opportunity to share a story with you guys about how I was actually affected by a mass shooting in my own hometown when I was growing up. So on the evening of September 15th, 1999, a gunman entered Wedgwood Baptist Church in Fort Worth, Texas, where I grew up, and he opened fire, killing 7 and wounding 7. And the reason why I bring this up is because what happened afterwards completely changed my life. What happened in the wake of such a senseless tragedy is that you see the community coming together in ways that you don't see otherwise. And it was amazing to watch people from all across belief systems, people you would never see together in a room, coming together, holding each other, meditating, praying, and holding each other. And our community became so close. And I bring this up because we don't have to witness tragedy in order to come together through unconditional love. It's not a necessity, but those are some times that remind us of who we are. So I just wanted to bring that up and also mention the heroes that arise to protect the public during these times. There was a police officer that was killed last night, and our thoughts and prayers go out to you. And something that I wanted to say is that true colors tend to come out in times of deep stress and tragedy. So think back in your life to a time that you came together with your friends and family around those hard times, and let's allow this moment to remind us of what is important. And what is it that's truly important? It's our experiences with our family and our friends. And when we see this happening on a macrocosmic scale, it's time to look at how we can look within into the microcosm, and how we can change ourselves, and how we can improve the world around us. Life is precious, and we need to appreciate our community and love somebody. So take that moment to love somebody. So, okay, we're going to shift now. We're going to shift out, and we're going to talk about travel. I wanted to do a travel feature because the world is a beautiful place. So let's take a look. And this article is coming from CNN.com. Jaco Prisco reported on CNN about the world's largest underwater restaurant. And it's opening in spring of 2019. Unfortunately, it's in Norway, but there it is. Hopefully we can get one in the United States soon. I'm all about that. But this is 16 feet underwater. It's a story and a half. That's what I calculated. 16 feet is about a story and a half. It's 110 feet long. That's about 11 stories high if you're looking at a building, right? This is Europe's first underwater restaurant. It's nearing completion. And this is how they sunk it. They filled containers with water, they put it inside the structure, and then they secured it to the bottom of the North Sea. This is the southern tip of Norway. So they sunk it in July of 2018. And when it's going to open in 2019, guests will enter at the shoreline across a glass walkway to the building. And then more than half of this is submerged. I see that Sterling in Twitter right now says, what, an underwater restaurant? Do they serve mermaids? Blasphemy. Do y'all want to go? I want to go. Anyway, I went down a rabbit hole, y'all, and I started researching underwater restaurants and hotels. And I thought to myself, where else in the world can you hang out in buildings underwater? Well, I found one called Lovers Deep. This is on scubadiverlife.com. And this is a company called Oliver's Travels, and they specialize in luxury villa rentals. So there's a submarine called Lovers Deep, and it will go to a location chosen by the customer from St. Lucia to the Red Sea. So this submarine has been specially designed for leisure. The guests can even choose the interior design and the furniture. A private chef cooks the food on board, and there's even a personal butler. So I looked into the cost, and it was $220,000 US dollars to stay there for one night. $220,000 US dollars. This might be a pipe dream, right? Unless, should we all go in together? We got someone over there with $220,000. We can go create a party. Okay, so you're probably wondering, why are we talking about this, Teresa? There's no way we have that kind of money. How is this relevant for us? Well, it's time for a makes you wonder. New hashtag, right? DFairwaves. We've got a new hashtag. Hashtag makes you wonder. This is expensive now, right? But at some point, will we tap into building more structures under the water for commercial and residential use? I'm seeing all kinds of pictures jumping up in the chat over here on Twitter. And at what point, my question is this, what point will we stop building up and out and start building down? So we have all of these space movies, these sci-fi space movies, but what about an underwater sci-fi movie? That's what I want. So Let's talk about that. Have you guys ever seen any sci-fi movie that took place underwater? I know that there's a video game, actually, BioShock. I think it was BioShock 2, if I'm remembering correctly, took place underwater. That was a really cool video game. If y'all know of any movie that I need to watch, that we all need to watch, that's a sci-fi movie underwater, drop it into the chat right now on Twitter, hashtag DF Airwaves. So is it time to buy stock in mermaid tail companies? Because I'm trying to live in a house under the water so that I can go swimming around in my mermaid tail whenever I want. That would be amazing. I've also decided that I need a splash sound that I can use during the broadcasts. All right, let's dive right in. Hashtag mermaid life. We're going to shift. We're going to talk about science news now. So Mosasaurus bones turned up along the coast of West Africa. Scientists are working on putting together the bones of an ancient sea monster in Angola, West Africa. So this was on npr.org, reported by Christopher Joyce. This was reported on November 8th, 2018. And so there's this gigantic swimming reptile, and some of the bones have turned up along the coast of West Africa, and they're going to an exhibit Friday, which is tomorrow, November 9th, 2018, at the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. Paleontologist Louis Jacobs of Southern Methodist University in Dallas, that's SMU, that's actually right down the street from me, has been digging in Angola since 2005. He says fossils from its coastline tell the story of the ocean's earliest days and some of the first creatures that lived there. So I'm going to go into the past. We're going to do a short history lesson. So 135 million years ago, the supercontinent Gondwana started to break apart, and the South Atlantic Ocean began to fill in the gap between Africa and South America. So lots of changes in the sea level and the temperature occurred, and this created a new space for sea creatures to live in. Here's where the mosasaurs come in. So at SMU, they're reconstructing a mosasaur for the museum. Now, I'm going to tell you what this looks like for those of you who aren't already Googling this and dropping things into Twitter. So this is part lizard and part orca. It possibly had scales and a shark-looking tail fin, 3-inch long teeth, and a wide snout. That's also with 3-foot-long jaws. These things were 50 feet long. That's the size of a bus. So I think we need to draw some mosasaurs. I know that we have some artists here in the audience. Eric Stitt, let's see your mosasaur. If you want to submit art, let's do it. On the airwavesradio at gmail.com to be showcased. So this was the mosasaur was the T-Rex of the sea. Very cool. So maybe we need some art depictions of this. This is how Divine Frequency does it. Maybe we should get some underwater cities going with some ancient sea monsters. Let's see that. Okay, so back to the Mosasaur project. So how was the project started? Again, this is from the article on NPR by Christopher Joyce. So Michael Polchin started piecing the dinosaur together in his dining room, but the skeleton got so big that it's now hanging in the department's basement. How is that for a skeleton in the closet? I need a cricket sound as well. So I started looking up mosasaurs on YouTube, and I found a scene from the 2015 film Jurassic World. Y'all ever seen that movie? I haven't. I really want to go see it now. So this short clip that I watched, it was about a minute long. It took place at what appeared to be a dinosaur zoo, kind of like SeaWorld, except with dinosaurs. The amusement park guide speaks into a microphone very calmly as a shark on a crane is lifted over the water, and an enormous mosasaur launches up out of the water very suddenly after the woman calmly tells everyone, she's a little shy. And then this violent scene ensues, and the mosasaur devours the shark, and the crowd's cheering. It was very vicious and kind of crazy. So that's the mosasaur. They're pretty cool. I'm seeing some images go up right now on Twitter. Very nice. Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit more about science because I just can't get away from science. You know, I had to throw a couple in here. This is from universetoday.com. So this is the headline. I wanted to read it because I think it's just a great headline. We could build a powerful laser and let any civilizations within 20,000 light years know we're here. Although, should we? So I wanted to talk about this. So Evan Galf reported on November 7th, 2018, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, that's MIT, scientists published a paper. This is a feasibility study, okay? It's very important to understand this is a feasibility study, okay? And they're discussing how building a powerful laser could, in quotations, communicate our presence to any other technological civilizations in our galactic vicinity. Very interesting stuff. So let's nerd out. One of the authors, James Clark, who's an MIT grad student, he took different telescopes and things that were already being built today to see if a detectable beacon could be made out of them. So he assessed a Japanese 2 quadrillion watt laser that was fired in 2015. So this was only fired for 1/trillionth of a second. And so he had to do a little bit more research because that just wasn't powerful enough to do what he wanted it to do in this study. So he looked to the Air Force, to a project called the Airborne Laser Project. And the point of this project was to equip the Boeing 747 with a laser to shoot down ballistic missiles. And a ballistic missile is, Wikipedia defines it as following a ballistic trajectory to deliver one or more warheads on a predetermined target. So Clark looked at the range of this device. He calculated that it would work for what he needed. So the authors moved on to the next phase, which was looking at telescopes. So the authors of this feasibility study, they would need to fire the laser through a telescope, right? With approximately 30 to 45 meters in diameter. That's 98 to 147 feet approximately. So they were able to find this, and this is my personal favorite, the European Extremely Large Telescope. That's the name of it. That is 39.3 meters and for the primary mirror. I think the intern came up with that name, the European Extremely Large Telescope. So the observatory aims to gather 100 million times more light than the human eye. And I pulled this information from Wikipedia. This is another statistic. It has around 256 times the light gathering area of the Hubble Space Telescope. So the laser has to be powerful enough to be seen over the power of the sun, because the light from our sun would drown out the laser. And so it would be tuned to infrared for contrast against the sun's infrared range. I thought that was really interesting. So I'm going to give you guys a quote from this article that I thought was really cool. The signal would be visible to any alien observers within about 20,000 light years if they were looking close enough. Very cool. So, and then Clark mentioned, where would it be built? Maybe on the moon. So remember, this is just a feasibility study, but I do think it's interesting to consider nevertheless. It's interesting to take the existing tools that we have in the public sector to consider what else we could create. Think about that. It makes you wonder. Like, I really appreciate how thoughtful these students are. If we took our minds and started to assess that which we already have access to, what new ideas could we expand into? This reminds me that the world is a playground. I used to teach kindergarten. Kids are in their world like it's a playground every moment. They're exploring. And sometimes as adults, we can forget that. We can forget that reality. But the world is a playground and the possibilities are endless. And when we choose to be childlike and sit in a space of open exploration, there is so much richness around us to be explored. Now, we're going to shift again. And this is the most interesting story that I have come in contact with in the last week. I'm so excited to tell you guys about this that I'm shaking in my chair. I don't know if you guys know about this yet, and I don't know if you guys know how obsessed I am with the Rendlesham Forest incident, but guess what? Lawrence Fishburne is going to be starring in Sony Pictures' UFO drama Rendlesham. I kid you not, guys. And for those of you who don't know, the Rendlesham Forest incident is a world-renowned UFO sighting. It took place over 3 days in December of 1980 in Suffolk, England, at the twin NATO air bases, RAF Bentwaters and RAF Woodbridge. That's Royal Air Force, is what RAF stands for. There were multiple accounts of seeing lights in the sky. Popular accounts of the event include testimonies by Staff Sergeant Jim Peniston, Airman First Class John Burroughs, and they investigated a craft that allegedly landed in the Rendlesham Forest. My father was stationed at RAF Woodbridge at the time. He was a pilot in the 81st Tactical Fighter Wing. He flew A-10s. So shout out to my dad, love you, daddy. And he's super excited about the show, and so am I. I can't wait to see it. So in the Sony Pictures Television and 11th Hour Films, they're co-producing this 8-part series. It's a TV drama called Rendlesham, and they cast Lawrence Fishburne as the lead. So the story will revolve around his family who live in the area at the time. So I'm sure I'm going to be doing so much more reporting on this. I would love it if you guys watched it with me. So keep an eye on that TV show because we're going to get to talk about UFOs. Now, what I wanted to mention here that I think is super interesting is that Lawrence Fishburne was the character Morpheus in The Matrix. So what I think is interesting about actors is that you have archetypes. An archetype is an original pattern that other patterns are fashioned after, right? And then over time, these archetypes fuse together into a larger group of meaning, sometimes referred to as a gestalt. So when we look at actors, sometimes the roles they play, they amass together, and in our minds, we recognize them in certain roles, and then we see them overall as a grouping of their roles. So I wanted to talk about this. So we know this character as Morpheus in The Matrix, right? So he represented the illuminated sage, or the one with the answers, right? And I think that that's super interesting that they've chosen him for the role, the lead role in Rendlesham. So cool, because it's moving us into the realm of thought about ETs, UFOs, advanced technology, government conspiracy. Does he represent the illuminated sage in the Rendlesham series? Does he represent the one with the answers? So only time will tell. We will be reporting on this much more. I can tell you that much, folks. If you want the source links, Divine Frequency is dedicated to providing whatever resources it can in order to assist with the global truth-seeking process. We provide full transparency into sourcing, and it is our intention to support your research process. Through our website, thedivinefrequency.com, please notice the source section at the bottom of all articles. Here you can find links to all of the original posts. If you are interested in reading any of the articles that I discussed today, I would love to share my content with you. Please send an inquiry to ontheiarwavesradio@gmail.com. I will be more than happy to provide a full list of sources to the original articles featured in this news segment. So we're going to close this on down, guys. Let's remember gratitude. Let's sit in a space of gratitude for what we're going through right now. We're in November. We're coming up to Thanksgiving. I'm your hostess, Teresa Yanaros at Divine Frequency. Thank you for joining me for this evening's celebration. This is On the Airwaves Radio. This life is all about riding the wave between the known and the mystery. For a sparkly dose of media-tainment and personal empowerment with a refreshing blast of glitter and truth, join me weekly on Thursday nights on jimmychurchradio.com at 7:30 p.m. Pacific time. The live Twitter hashtag is #DFairwaves. Email questions and perspectives to On the Airwaves at ontheiarwavesradio@gmail.com. You can follow Divine Frequency on Twitter, Instagram, and please go to our website, thedivinefrequency.com, and sign up for our newsletter. The times have changed and tides have shifted. Let's ride the airwaves, y'all. All around us are pieces of the gigantic cosmic puzzle. Let's attune to its frequency. Bye.